What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of UbiChat, a Ubisoft podcast where we cover everything under the Ubisoft sun. I'm one of your hosts, Nate, and with me, as always, is my good friend,
Nick.
I want to go ahead and remind you guys to follow us on our Twitters. First one being TX3 Productions, and second one being at UbiChat. Sitting about, we finally hit that 50 on ThreadX3 Productions. Got about 55 followers on Twitter. Celebrate good times.
Come on!
We're still sitting at 47 for UbiChat, so if you like the show, like what we do here, want to get in touch with us or want to just hang out and observe the funny GIFs I post every now and then, which I'll get better about posting, you can go ahead and follow us on that Twitter. Links to the Discords for the separate pages will be on those Twitters as well. Nick, what you been up to this week?
Not a whole lot, actually. Getting ready to transition into another job, and then at the same time, because I like chaos, we're starting to try to do some more productions on the TX3 side of stuff. So we're going to have a new weekly show called Thinking About Things. We did a couple like a month back. But now it's like, okay, I want to make it official. I want to make it a weekly thing. It's going to be out on Mondays, and so I want to make it official. And so, yeah, we're trying to get a good backlog of that so that we're not always, cut for time, basically. And so we're doing that, and then I'm transitioning into another job. I'm going from a taxi driver into a bus driver. And the big change there is that I will actually have a wage. It's hard living a life when you're living by the day, and it's like you're hoping that you get enough money that day, and if you don't, oh freaking well. So yeah, so a lot of stuff happening. So yeah, haven't had a lot of free time, but then when I do, I definitely dive deep. That's for sure. What about you?
Get in real deep. I actually am transitioning as well. I'm getting out of training this week, so starting tomorrow,
I want to make a joke, but I won't. It's okay.
Starting tomorrow, I will get my own jobs to go to instead of riding along with someone like I have for the past 6 weeks. So that's very nerve-wracking for me because I'm going to be by myself.
Right.
Kind of just be like, well, did I learn?
Do I need a flathead or a Phillips? Oh no!
It's a good thing I have both in my bag.
I'm a failure.
But yeah, no, that's pretty much been it for me. Just been watching TV and doing stuff like that. So not too terribly much. But since I got you here, I did want to bring up something before we get started too much into the show. One of the cool things about doing this podcast, doing UbiChat, since we've done the transition, is we're basically kind of starting from scratch. We're trying to build a good platform for us to discuss, the Ubisoft stuff we want to discuss and kind of get our thoughts out there. But also, it's not just us. It's you, the people who are listening, who are helping as well. So that's why we always ask for your feedback, always ask for, anything that you would want us to cover or not cover, because we want to build this with you and for you. So really, this is an effort on us as well as you. Like, we really do want to hear what you like and what you don't like. There are some things in the show that probably aren't going to work, and either we'll figure those out on our own, or you can let us know that. So it's really, we want this to be a passion project for us, but for you as well. We want this to be a place where you can come to if you're kind of needing a Ubisoft fix or something along those lines, and can just kind of chill, kind of listen to what we have to say, and be a part of the discussion. So that's kind of really, I think, coming from both of us in particular. It's just something that I've been thinking about, and something that I felt like I need to address.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing to point out that, like, you didn't already touch on is, we are pretty much amateurs as far as, we're not doing this for a living. We're doing this because we're passionate about it. And I think the number one thing that us switching from Hope County Radio to UbiChat, what that proves is our ability to evolve. our ability to change and our ability to try new things. And so if we're doing something you don't like, or if you think that we could do stuff differently, then, touching on what you said before, Nate, let us know, and we will build this podcast with you, because this is for fans of Ubisoft, and so we can't make a better show if we don't have, feedback. And I think that is the most important thing, is getting feedback from you guys, and, having you guys tell us, what you like, what you don't like. And, I guess that's pretty much it. I feel like the best way to see change is to go ahead and contact us. There's many different ways. There's the @UbiChat, @TX3 Productions. That's just Twitter. You can even just email us at threatx3productions.com or @gmail.com. And so you can even contact us that way.
Basically, we just want to reiterate to you guys that we love what we do, but we want, it's gonna sound so weird, we want to do it with you.
There was a legitimate reason for okay, maybe we should change, maybe we should evolve. And like I said, that's one of the main things I would want people to really learn from this discussion, is that we're willing to change, we're willing to do stuff differently, but we can't do it without you, because otherwise we're literally just talking into a mic.
No truer words were ever said.
Really?
Well, no, there probably was some more true words that have been said over the course of history.
2 + 2 = 4? Those
true. Yeah, but I was under the understanding that 2 + 2 = 5. So
whoa,
that's kind of where thanks to
Galileo is turning it. Is it Newton?
I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our first segment of the show, SitRep. So to start off SitRep, this is where we have updates for upcoming games and games that are currently out. Speaking of currently out, apparently Hungry Shark World came out 2 weeks ago. It came out July 17th on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, and literally heard nothing about this whatsoever.
You know what it was? It was that damn song. Baby shark, baby shark, You haven't heard that song?
So much. Yes, I have heard that song. You said that to me 3 weeks ago. I hate you so much. That's going to be stuck in my head.
That's what did
for
it.
The rest of the day.
I'm telling you.
So if you guys haven't heard of Hungry Shark World, maybe you've heard of Hungry Shark Evolution, and that was a game that came out a long time ago. I think 2013, 2012. It was out on mobile. And it's a super fun game. It's kind of one of those, I remember I used to play it whenever I would be in class. And it's kind of one of those you don't want to play in class, because it's a shark collecting coins and eating things. But also the most fun thing about it is you would jump out of the water Jaws style and just chomp and eat people on the shore. So
This looks actually really fun. I'm looking at the trailer right now.
Yeah, it is really, really fun. So it came out to consoles on July 17th on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. So I definitely may pick this up on Switch, because this seems like it'd be a good Switch game.
God, I'm so sick of everyone saying that. I don't care if it's true, honestly. It might be the most truest thing anybody has ever said in the history of ever, but I'm so sick of hearing that.
Well, I understand, but for me, I have PS4, PC, and Switch.
Yeah.
If I was to play this game out of any of them, it would be on the Switch, because I'm not going to sit on my PS4 to play Hungry Shark World. I have so many other games to play.
Well, right. I'm just, for all the listeners out there who are like me, who only have a PlayStation or only have an Xbox One or even only have the PC, hearing that about literally every freaking game is getting so old. It's oh, this is a great game. for Switch. And it's like, you know what? Maybe it's just a good game. Maybe you should just get off your Switch high horse and stop sucking on Nintendo's big-ass joystick. And that was Nick's rant of the day.
Yep, that was one of them. In other news, you have the Ghost Recon Wildlands Siege update that came out on the 24th, which adds another, like, I don't necessarily think it's an expansion, but new missions and some other, actually a lot of other goodies that came with it in this update.
Yeah, there was like over 100 items. It's like...
Yeah. Got a lot of different customization, like 2 new classes for Ghost War PvP, which look really cool.
Which, you know, there is actually a really good community behind that. I'm very impressed with how people latched onto that. I mean, especially with a game that is like GTA essentially, but in Bolivia with military people, having a multiplayer that people actually latched onto. Like, you would think, like, GTA Online is its own beast, but mainly what people like to do is just kind of goof around, and every once in a while they might go into certain things because maybe it's like double RP weekend or something like that. But for the most part, people don't really do the missions that much, at least from what I've experienced.
Oh yeah, the most fun I've had is just goofing around. Like, I like some of the modes. Some of the modes are really fun, but the most fun I have is just messing around.
Exactly. So then you have this where it's a completely different mode. It's still within the, the map itself, but to see it be doing so well and people latch onto it, I think is just a testament to how good the game mode actually is.
Mm-hmm. So for this new update, you get a special mission dubbed Operation Archangel. Let's see. It spans 2 parts and set in the province of... It's Caymans, I think. Operation Archangel will team the Ghost with Rainbow Six Siege operators Twitch and Valkyrie as they track down Caveria, who's gone missing.
Right.
Some of the things that
Sounds
it comes...
like she's like pissed off about something, so she's going on a rampage.
Rampage, which was actually a decent movie, I'd like to add.
Oh, shut up.
Operation Archangel is free to all players. Players will be able to grab a Rainbow Six gear pack, which includes Caveira's handgun, Valkyrie's schmick scarf. I love that word. I love that word. Twitch's skull balaclava and a customizable HK 416 assault rifle. Nice. There's also there's new maps, there's new items, there's like 6 new siege icons for Wildlands. It is really cool to see these updates that they're putting out for this game. And just all the
new
content
surgeon class looks really cool because I believe on Rainbow Six there's the class that you can shoot the revive dart, and so they're basically bringing that person into the the Wildlands multiplayer. Yeah, I've really got to jump into Wildlands again. I still have to play the Splinter Cell operation that they did, but they're giving this. They really are doing a lot of good things for this year 2 of Wildlands, and it looks really, really cool. So I definitely have to jump back into it. Hopefully that'll be soon. I don't think I have too much more on my plate since I just beat God of War, which was my main gaming hurdle. So we'll see what happens with that. And finally for SitRep, just breaking news before we started recording, Splinter Cell Blacklist and Splinter Cell Double Agent are coming to Xbox One backwards compatibility today. So if you have loved those games or never played them and you have an Xbox One, you're now able to play them through backwards compatibility. Yeah, PlayStation people are just like sitting here twiddling our thumbs. We're like, yeah. See, if I want to play Blacklist, I got to load it up on PC and go through whatever glitches or bugs I have. I have my issues with PC gaming, but if you've never played them before, Splinter Cell Blacklist is a really fun game. It's not my favorite of the series because I like the more traditional spy game that Splinter Cell games in the past were, like Double Agent, but they combine a lot of good action elements as well as like sneaking around. So and was Blacklist the one they didn't have spies and mercs? No, Blacklist did have spies and mercs. Blacklist they brought it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blacklist was the one that didn't have the main character from the past few Splinter Cell games to
Sam
play
Fisher?
the role. Yeah. Michael Ironside was the original actor who did all of them except for Blacklist. So, yeah. And then Double Agent is a really interesting take on the Splinter Cell games, where you kind of have to battle the entire game with this karma meter, because you're a double agent, like the title says. You have to figure out where your alliances want to go. Do they want to go with the agency that put you in charge on this mission, or are you going to stick with the people you are basically a double agent for?
So here's a big question. Do you think maybe not a reboot, but do you think like a Splinter Cell made something like, Metal Gear Solid 5, where it's a big open world? Do you think that could be something interesting, or would it seem too, cloney?
I really don't know. I honestly really don't know, because a lot of the magic that Splinter Cell had in the past was with their formula of being a very linear, sneaking in, super stealthy spy game.
Yeah.
But Blacklist did do it fairly well with giving you 3 different ways that you can play the game. Whether you wanted to go loud, be a predator and do like non-lethal takedowns and weapons only, or if you wanted to just be a silent killer.
Okay.
So that's, a lot of people still didn't like Blacklist because it wasn't the typical Splinter Cell games that we've played before, but it added something new that's very interesting. So if they do a reboot or a sequel, if they try to figure out a way to incorporate both, I think that would be really, really cool.
So maybe something like a Dishonored or a Prey, where it gives you maybe not an open world, but it gives you like so many tools that you can take on like the same mission. Instead of just 3 ways, you can like have like 10 different ways to take on each mission.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect, actually. That would be a good marriage between the 2 different types of games. So yeah, that's a really good idea. Nice. I like that a lot.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm here for.
Well, I like it very much. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our topic of the show.
Topic of the show.
So, I kind of wanted to bring a question. Is Ubisoft building a Tom Clancy in-game, crossover universe?
Yeah, like the MCU.
Like the MCU. Yeah, the TCGU. Yeah. Is Ubisoft building a TCGU? The main reason I ask this is with the new Rainbow Six Siege update that Ghost Recon Wildlands got, and the Splinter Cell one. I like this pattern that they're showing with this game and with this content. Now, the easy answer to this could be no, they're just trying to bring new life into Wildlands and try to provide content, and I'll totally accept that.
Right.
But with the addition of new games coming out like The Division 2, are we potentially going to see some crossover with Wildlands and Division 2 in Wildlands, or maybe we will see operators in Division 2 from Wildlands?
Yeah. For one, I do kind of hope maybe Siege starts crossing over as well. Maybe have one of the guys from Wildlands. But I guess the problem with that is that Wildlands is all about choice, player choice, basically. So you get the same tools, sort of, that you would get in a Siege, like the different, I don't know, like the different gadgets and yeah, but the thing is that you can mix and match, and that's what makes Wildlands like Wildlands. So then picking one character and then making that one character have a very, very specific, what am I trying to say? Have a very specific loadout, I guess, I don't know if that would feel too Wildlandy, and so I think that is part of the reason that it fits so well in the Wildlands universe, is because it's it's all about player choice. So putting these situations into their world, I think, just adds just this whole nother layer. As far as the TCGU, as we just coined it today, I think what would be super, super awesome is if, like, in the Division 2, if we could get some kind of crossover, maybe see where our Wildland characters ended up after the whole, pandemic or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that could be a really cool idea. Or even like some of the Rainbow Six Siege people, and you get to see them in the Division world. Like, what are they doing now? Where were they when when everything happened? I think the possibilities are endless, and especially with the Division being like this post-apocalyptic kind of thing, I think it could be really cool as far as like from a storytelling perspective and just a kind of Easter egg perspective,
Yeah, and something else, we've seen Ubisoft different content crossover between games, but that's mostly been with the extent of like a Ubi Club or Uplay.
That's a good point, yeah.
You have like skins or something like that, and then I know in Siege they'll have skins for like Watch Dogs 2 and Far Cry. You get like little trinkets, but Wildlands is the first time we're seeing like story crossover. Hey, exactly. All these people exist in the same place.
Yeah,
and we haven't seen that before with the Tom Clancy games like at all.
Yeah,
from my understanding.
So when you have the Tom Clancy name in front of the game, like there is always this kind of perceived or this like untold nudge that it's kind of taking place in the same universe. And I bet if there's anybody out there who like reads the Tom Clancy books, I bet they're like yelling into their speaker like, you idiots, of course they're the same universe. I've known that for years. But we don't read books, okay? Like reading's for nerds who don't like sex. Anyways, so I feel like there was always this kind of like untold truth that it was its own universe, but now having this in-game confirmation that yes, this is the same universe, yes, this is all kind of happening in the pseudo real world, I think it's just like I hope they keep going and they stop maybe just doing it for Wildlands. I want to see the the TCGU spread out to all the games. I want to be like driving around in Crew 2 and like I guess that was stupid, but no, like play as one of the Wildland characters or play alongside one of them. Because like there's a lot of sections where like there's off-roading or something, so maybe have like an off-roading section, but it's like you're driving along. So, I don't know. I guess that would be a really bad example, and I guess that's not even Tom Clancy either. So, good job, Nick.
We'll see. To kind of expanding on this a little bit, the other thing I have is this just going to be a thing in Wildlands? And something I'm personally excited to see if they actually double down and do it is there's always been, I think at least since Assassin's Creed 4, there's always been this like kind of speculation and I think within the past 2 games been a confirmation that Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed exist in their own universe, like in the same universe.
Oh,
because
interesting.
Did you play Assassin's Creed 4?
4.
Black Flag.
Oh, yes, I did.
Do you remember going around to people's computers and looking at the emails and things like that?
No, I'm not a dork.
Okay. Well, I like to do the email hunter game. One of the computers you go on talks about, in one of the emails that you look at in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, there's talks of something going on in Chicago, and I think they name dropped the Bloom Corporation, which is the big bad in the Watch Dogs universe.
Wait, Bloom?
Bloom. Blume.
Bloom.
Yeah, Bloom.
Blume?
Yeah, Bloom.
Bloom. Okay, yeah. I thought you said balloon.
I probably said it weird.
99 red balloons.
Yeah, that was. I remember seeing that. I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." And then I think in a couple later Assassin's Creed games, or even in Watch Dogs 2, there was hints of Abstergo. So yeah. I think it'd be cool if they doubled down and did something with that, but they'd have to. Assassin's Creed in particular would kind of have to fix how they're doing their present day stuff.
Right.
Because
now in the Division, do you remember the safe house that was basically the Ubisoft office?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it had like posters of For Honor and Go Home or Grow Home.
Grow Home.
The robot one. And so like I'm like, oh, is this the offices? That's kind of cool or whatever. But that was more like Ubisoft is a company that does exist and they exist in this universe, which throws this huge like what the kind of thing. Like, wait, so Ubisoft is an actual company in this world that Ubisoft created?
Yeah, and there's actually in Watch Dogs 2 in their first like expansion missions, there's one where you have to go onto this yacht to take out a target, and if you go into the theater room that's on this yacht, if you look on the TV or on the shelf, there's a copy of the Assassin's Creed movie, like the cover. Like clear as day, the Assassin's Creed movie.
Well, those are more Easter eggs, and it is nice to have like an actual like official crossover rather than just like, look at that.
Yeah, but they've been hinting at those things in the past couple games. But like I was saying, if Origins is any indication, like I really don't know what their current present day stuff is anymore, because I liked what they did in 4 because it was super meta. You working as a game developer at Abstergo. Right. But like in Origins, it's just like the present day stuff is just this woman, and I haven't beat the game yet still because it's very, very large and I have a lot of other stuff to do. But there's a story with her where she's like trying to do this stuff so she can prove to Abstergo that she's useful, basically.
Oh, wow.
And they're fighting back, but she's like in her own animus that she made in the caves in Egypt. And so that's cool, but I don't know if there's a centralized present day story anymore in the new Assassin's Creeds.
Right. It's like saying there's a story behind Black Ops Zombies. I know there is, but like it's so obscure at this point that it's just like it's really just there for the people who give a crap.
Yeah, pretty much. And maybe that is actually a good example, because over the course of the past few years, they've tried to put together and build a zombies story, like especially with Black Ops 4 and their new zombies things relating back to characters before and giving an actual story. Maybe we'll see that with some of these games as well. But besides Wildlands, that's what I want, is I want to see a crossover with Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed. I think that'd be really, really cool. But a question I pass along to you guys is, what games would you like to see crossover in a substantial way? And what games have done some sort of crossover that you were just like, well, that's kind of stupid?
Final Fantasy had a couple.
Hey, that was cool. They did a Final Fantasy one for Origins.
It's just a costume, though.
No, the Final Fantasy one in Origins was really cool. Like, I'll send you the link to the little thing. That was cool. The one in Final Fantasy 15, it looks cool, but I didn't play it, so I can't tell. But yeah, I'll send you a link to that because that was really cool. Now let's jump into our final segment of the show, You, Me, and Ubi. You, Me, and Ubi is where we take a look back at some of games in the Ubisoft's past, and this one is going to be a meaty one as we take a look at some of Ubisoft's obscure-ass movie tie-in games. So, probably the, jewel of all the ones on this list is...
Should we save it for last, then?
Yeah, okay, let's save it for last.
Yeah, so, and by obscure, you definitely, I'd say, except for Star Wars Trilogy, Apprentice of the Force, aside from that, I didn't even know most of these existed. Yeah.
So the first one on the list is The Sum of All Fears.
Yeah.
I didn't know they made a game of this at all. I liked the book, and the book was really good, but I really, really enjoyed the movie because that's what I saw first. But
now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is The Sum of All Fears, isn't that technically a Tom Clancy story?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the one hand, I guess it would make sense that Ubisoft would create a video game for it, but at the same time, I never associated Some of All Fears with Tom Clancy until like years later that I found out, oh, it's actually a Tom Clancy story. And so then they have the game, and like the old saying is that pretty much all video game movie tie-ins are just cash grabs. And it's like, this is definitely like, they just threw it to like this, college college team who just wanted to do it for credit, and they're like, oh, just make a first person shooter that's kind of like Rainbow Six.
Yeah, it's I would categorize this as a first person point and click action adventure game. Just because like if you look at the gameplay, you don't see any gun whatsoever.
Right.
Like you see a target and you put the reticle over them and you just start shooting, and it just starts shooting from behind the camera.
Right, yeah.
And then like you're
Which,
picking
their games used to be that way, but I feel like this game, okay, so for reference for everybody, this game came out for the Gamecube and PC. And so it was that era of games. By then, you would have already had the 007 tie-in, and the 007 tie-in had you see the gun and you're shooting it, So to have this game where it's literally just the cursor, you don't see the gun, like it screams laziness, because it's like, why wouldn't you at least have a gun? And then if they did, maybe it'd be this like just really crappily rendered gun or something.
Yeah, this gameplay is just so funny to watch, because it does look like the just like I mean, it really does look like a clone of Rainbow Six.
Right.
But more like
even the cursor.
Yeah.
Like the cursor is very Rainbow Six-y.
Yeah. Rainbow Six-y. The HUD kind of looks like it too. I think the only thing that's missing from it is like a planning phase, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so that's number one. That came out in 2002. The game did. Next is what's probably the worst game on this list, and that's Charlie's Angels for the PS2 and the GameCube.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, the way I looked at it, this was like a side scroller beat 'em up, but in 3D. So like if you what's the Final Fight, I think is what it's called. It's like you just and then you went on there'd be a little arrow to tell you to go to the next screen, and then you go but now it's in 3D with girls in bikinis. It's like, oh, the objectification.
Yeah,
like over 9,000.
I'm not the type to like really worry about stuff like this, but this game would get someone sent to jail nowadays if it came out. Like it's so objectifying. It's not even funny. The first like bit of gameplay you play with, or you play. It sounded kind of weird. Is Lucy Liu and what's her face? What's the other girl's name?
It's either Drew Barrymore or Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz, like their characters in swimsuits, and when they're like, punching and hitting, it's like straight up moaning. Like it's.
Oh, I know. Every time they get like that's the sound of them getting hit. It's like, oh, come on.
It's so bad, and unsurprisingly, if you look at the review scores for this game, basically across the board,
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 across the board. They're getting like ones and twos, and I think IGN gave it a 4 out of 10. Like it's just, this game looks absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and I mean that's saying something, because like this is PS2. You're not expecting like a game to look good, but I would argue that these graphics look like a PS1 game.
Yep. I would say so too.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of the objectification of the women or whatever, if you think about it, like Charlie's Angels was also like just a movie that would be a lot less likely to come out. And if it did, like, I don't know if they would have the same scenes that they did, because like a lot of it was just like, let's put Lucy Liu, Cameron Diaz, and Drew Barrymore in these sexy situations. Mm-hmm. I feel like, and then the acting itself was just kind of, it existed.
Yeah, but it did have Bernie Mac, so.
Burning Man.
That's something to be said. So the next one on the list is my personal favorite, and that's Star Wars Trilogy: Apprentice of the Force for the Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
Now, I think this game is either way ahead or tied with Skyrim for the most amount of time I've ever put into a video game. Because this stayed in my Game Boy. I had a SP for a long time. This stayed in my Game Boy over the course of 5 or 6 years. Like, I played this game a lot. And it's just a very simple, like, platformer adventure game, I guess you could say. Yeah. That spans across the first 3 movies, New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, and kind of goes through like a story of the movies. And so you'll change situations, like you start out with a blaster, and then once you get a lightsaber, you do lightsaber combat, and it's really I really enjoyed it. It was something really fun to just pick up and play. And when I watched the video just a minute ago of someone playing it, like all of those memories of the sounds and the music like came flooding back. I was like, oh, those are good memories. Good times.
The weird thing about it, obviously this is a remake of the SNES classics, the Star Wars trilogy. And I think the weirdest thing is that like Ubisoft didn't do the original trilogy, but then for some reason were tasked to do this one. And then they like threw on the Apprentice of the Force, almost like a Snake Eater. Like, you know, they had Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater on the the GameCube. And so they threw on that other thing. I'm wondering if there's like extra stuff that wasn't in the original versions.
I don't know, but something interesting that I just saw is apparently the Apprentice of the Force uses the same engine for the Game Boy Advance version of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. So
that's funny.
So yeah, go ahead.
I think the most interesting parts was the fact that you like actually could do like a trench run, and so like it didn't just like, okay, here's a platformer. It's like it actually had moments from the movies that didn't marry itself to that side-scrolling shooter / lightsaber 'em up.
Yeah, it's also very interesting like style in that engine where the character is not exactly like pixelated, but they are like, it's almost 3D.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
So something very interesting on there. Next, we have Open Season, the game. And this one, I think I remember playing, but it came out to... This is one of those movie tie-in games that is actually of quality, but also came out on every single platform possible in 2006.
Yeah. Right. So
you had several different versions, but the main one I remember was probably either the GameCube or the Xbox 360 version. And it's just a simple adventure game that follows the story of the movie, but has really cool elements to it, gameplay elements to it.
Super kind of generic 3D platforming, as far as like you're just moving your character around, jumping, and I'm assuming like jumping, either beating up other animals or so it's super generic in that sense. But like when I was watching the footage for it, it's like it reminded me like not all the tie-in games were necessarily like bad, like Charlie's Angels. It's just that they were super generic, so it wasn't really, they didn't put in the effort to make it like Mario 64 levels of awesome. They were just like, hey, here's this quick little thing, and let's just have fun with it. And like for some games, especially like if we're talking about like the SNES, Aladdin, and like Lion King or whatever, it makes sense. And then even in this, it makes sense to have like a platformer kind of just fun cartoony game. It's when you start doing certain, we'll talk about it in a little bit, when you start doing something that just doesn't make sense for the movie that it's trying to tie in, like that's when it gets funny. But this one, I was like, oh, okay, that's cute.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of you remember Over the Hedge?
Oh yeah, huh?
Yeah, they had a movie tie-in game for that. I don't think Ubisoft published that, but they had a tie-in game that was kind of similar to this. Kind of has the walking around elements, but those are two that I remember spending a decent amount of time in. Next we have Beowulf the Game, which I really can't say if it's better than the movie. Honestly, I'm not sure. But what's obvious from this game is that it is a 100% God of War clone.
Oh God, yeah, like down to the red orbs and everything.
Everything about
like
it.
I think the very first boss that you fight is this giant like sea snake, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's. We'll leave it up to you guys to decide which is better, the movie or the game. But I probably the consensus.
Are you trying to say the movie was bad?
The movie was laughable, dude. We watched it in our senior English class. We watched it because we were reading the book, and like I hadn't seen the movie since I was little, and maybe not little, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I'm just sitting here going, this movie is literally the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's so bad it's entertaining.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked it because I thought it was a good showcase of like motion capture and stuff.
I'll give it that was interesting, but yeah, the story, like I actually like the story of Beowulf, and the movie I was just like, well, all right, whatever. But that could fall into the whole book is better than the movie kind of thing.
Right.
I don't really know. But like we teased before, the cream of the crop of this list is
the most obscurest of obscure.
Is none other than Little Nicky for the Game Boy Color.
Yeah. You said it, and I'm like, no. I was like, that's not a thing.
Yep. It is a pixel art platformer that has like 8-bit or 16-bit metal music playing in the background.
Right.
And it actually didn't get that. It actually got good reviews.
It's just so weird to hear.
It's got an 8 out of 10 from IGN, a 4 out of 10 from GameSpot, and it's got an overall like score of 67%.
Oh God! Wow.
So it looks kind of fun, but it's just one of those like, why was this a game? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at how it starts up, and it starts up just like the movie, where you have I don't know the real world name of him, but you know he's kind of bald, but he gets into a tree and he's a peeping Tom or whatever, and then he falls out of the tree, and that's how he dies. He goes down to hell, and then he's punished by having a giant bird follow around and hump him all the time or something. And so it actually starts off that way. It's like, I understand that's how the movie started off, but like even like the first like 10 minutes was just pretty much the movie, but in pixel form. And it's just like, I don't know, maybe just some Cliff Notes version of it would have been so much better.
And oh man, this I'm looking at the cover at the box art for this, and it's got the Nintendo seal of approval. I don't understand. Now something to clarify. Not all of these work.
With the way they're treating their Switch Online store, I'm not surprised.
Now, just to clarify real quick before someone's like, well, no, not all of these were developed by Ubisoft. Basically, all of these were published by Ubisoft. Right. Like, there was a different developer, but
they still have their name on it.
I know. It's just like, oh my God. Actually, I want to go back and watch Little Nicky. It's been a while. I think it's time to watch Little Nicky again. So
well, and it's so funny because it's like if you think about it, this is kind of how they got their beginning. I mean, all these games were early Ubisoft stuff before they really started. Like, you look at Ubisoft, how it is now. They have their own conference, and like there's not a single IP that is attached to somebody else's property, which is really cool because it's like, here is like the beginning of Ubisoft, and all they pretty much did, obviously they have their own games, but all they pretty much did were like tie-ins, and they dealt with other people's properties. So to see them go from Charlie's Angels all the way up to The Division and Rainbow Six. It's like, it's kind of an interesting thing to go back and see all these like just terrible games.
Absolutely terrible. I'm not going to put this on the list, but I just came across another one. They did the Dukes of Hazzard, Return of the General Lee.
What?
Jesus Christ.
Was that the one with the Sean Patrick? And,
no, this one came out.
Knoxville?
No, this one came out in 2004. It's a racing game.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, yeah. So you're right. It is interesting.
The Crew 2 prequel.
Yeah. It is interesting to see where they come from, like as far as like publishing all these movie tie-in games to like having their own like stuff to like put out and work on it. It really is interesting. That's why I like the segment, is we take a look back at where Ubisoft came from and where they are now.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's definitely.
I mean, the fact that they can fill a hour-long presentation, whether or not it was actually interesting, is not the point. But they can fill that whole hour with all their own original IP, and then to see this, and it's just like, wow, this is not the Ubisoft I remember. Like I did not as I haven't associated Ubisoft with crappy movie tie-in games for so long, I almost forgot about it.
Yeah, same. Exactly the same. Well, yeah, if there's any games of Ubisoft Pass you guys would like us to cover, please feel free to let us know. If not, we're just going to pick through the list and find out what's the most obscure or interesting that we've seen in the past. But I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of UbiChat. I had a lot of fun. Talking about these obscure-ass movie games. Probably the highlight of my week is going down that rabbit hole.
Rabbit's hole.
Rabbit's hole. That's going to do it for this episode of UbiChat, Ubisoft podcast, where we cover everything under the Ubisoft sun. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I definitely had a lot of fun. Nick, I hope you did as well.
Sure did.
All right, thank you guys.
And Dewsville, baby doll.
Thank you guys for tuning in to UbiChat, and we be seeing you later.
You did it!
We did it!
Hooray!
Well, that's gonna do it for. Hold on.
Are you gonna get the outro right?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to get it right this time. Have you watched Always Sunny?
Yes, some.
Okay. Do you know the troll episode?
No, I don't.
You don't? Oh, okay. When we get done with this, look up Dayman play Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode.